I did something stupid, then my stupidity ended with me. Because we didn't have social media back then. Social media is a beautiful and wonderful piece of technology that we can use to bring people together. Ashe?
Ashe.
But if you don't bring the right mindset to it, it will be misused. When I was young and did something stupid, my stupidity ended with me. But now, today, if you do something stupid, somebody's right there to film it and send it straight to YouTube and blast it all over the world. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Raise your hand if you have an account on social media. Any of them. Facebook, Instagram, any of those, okay? Hands up. Keep your hand up. Look around the room. I want you to make a commitment. A commitment to the Most High. A commitment to yourself. A commitment to the ancestors to put out something positive every day on social media. Post an African proverb. Post a scripture. Post a quote from a Black history hero or shero. Ashe?
Ashe.
Let's start circulating the consciousness. So here we see the development of pyramids. Imhotep's step pyramid. Then Seneferu came along and we even made mistakes, but we corrected our mistakes. Seneferu wanted to build a true pyramid with no steps on it, but he made a mistake. Do you see where he mismeasured his angles, and that's why they call this the bent pyramid. Do you see that?
Yes.
But then he came along and he corrected that and was able to build a true pyramid, and then his son Khufu came along and built the Great Pyramid. His son Khafre came along and built the second largest one, and then his son Menkaure came along and built the third largest one. What do we call it? African progressive perfection. Each generation improving upon the last. But do you know the statistics tell us today that this might be the first generation of Black youth who will not surpass the accomplishments of their elders? We got to change that around, Ashe? And I believe with the excellence in this room that we can do that. I got right up on the pyramid, I took this picture. Remember, 481 feet high, covering an area of 13 acres, 201 stair steps to the top. It was built by this man named Khufu. Everybody say Khufu.
Khufu.
But remember, it was not brown crumbling stone, it was polished white what?
Limestone.
Limestone with a capstone of pure gold. Imagine what that would look like in the noonday sun. Polished white limestone, capstone of pure gold. To give you an idea of how high 481 feet is, the Statue of Liberty is 151 feet tall. You could put it on top of itself 3 times and it still wouldn't be as high as the Great Pyramid. Ashe? Ashe. Who's that in that picture?
Me.
That's you standing next to some of the polished white limestone that's left. Now we're going all the way from Africa to America. One of the things that I'm going to show you in these last few minutes, brothers and sisters, is that America was built on African knowledge. Now, if I said America was built on African labor through slavery, I get a lot of ashes, but when I say America was built on African knowledge, people look at me kind of perplexed. We've all seen this before. Many of us have even been to Washington, D.C. and seen it. The Lincoln Memorial, right? We see him seated in kind of a meditative posture. But most people, when they're looking at this, they don't know that they're looking at an example or an exact replica of an ancient African monument of Remesu. Everybody say Remesu.
Remesu.
You may say, "Oh, come on, Mr. Kua, that's just a coincidence." Well, stay with me for just a moment. The Greeks called him Ramesses, and you see him seated in the same meditative posture. As a matter of fact, if I take you to the temple of Abu Simbel, what you're going to see is not one, but how many colossal statues of Remesu? How many you see?
4.
Okay, so you see 4 statues. One more time. How many again?
4.
You see 4, and one of them was destroyed, I think it was by an earthquake. Look at how massive it is in comparison to the people here. When you go back in between these, you go into a temple. And an amazing thing happens inside this temple. Every year, the sun shines a beam of light down this corridor and lights up the face of the statue of the king only 2 times a year, on his birthday and the day of his inauguration or coronation. Now I ask you, what type of architectural, engineering, and mathematical expertise did African people have to orient a temple so that a beam of sunlight would shine down this corridor only 2 times a year? Ashe?
Ashe.
And when we take it a step further, we find out that this temple was not built from the ground up. It was carved out of the side of a mountain. And so what you thought were statues are actually pillars holding up the ceiling.
Ashe.
You see? And then you said there were how many colossal statues of Ramesu?
4.
I can't hear you. How many?
4.
4. 4 faces carved in the side of a mountain. Where have I seen 4 faces carved in the side of a mountain? As Ashra Kwesi says, somebody knows something about you that you don't know about yourself and has intentionally kept it from you, brothers and sisters. Because as long as I can keep you operating with the nigger mentality, then I can keep you in check. As long as I can keep you dropping out of school, then I can keep you in check. As long as I can keep funneling you through the school to prison pipeline, I get paid every time you get locked up, and it's modern slavery, and I maintain control because I've kept you from the knowledge of yourself. Ashe?
Ashe.
Raise your hand if you're learning something this afternoon. Keep your hand up and look around the room. Give yourselves a black hand for being here this afternoon. So I need to give you a quick quiz. Which came first, Ramesu or Abraham Lincoln?
Ramesu.
All right, you have just qualified for what does it mean to be black? 102. Let's continue. I say. All right, check it out. Washington Monument, tallest structure in Washington, D.C. Right? 555 feet tall. Now with your prior knowledge, you can make a hypothesis, which is an educated
Yes.
All right? Where do you think the design came from?
Egypt.
It came from the
Kemet.
motherland, right? We called it a Tekken. Everybody say Tekken.
Tekken.
I took this picture of Hatshepsut's Tekken. Hatshepsut was a woman who became king. No, I did not just make a mistake. Some people you hear referred to as Queen Hatshepsut. She was not queen, she was the king. Ashe?
Ashe.
And she ruled for over 20 years with a reign of complete peace. But I took a picture of Hatshepsut's Tekken. A Tekken is a symbol of resurrection of power and authority. And I took this picture with the sun rising behind it because the Tekken was used for a number of purposes. One of its purposes was as a sundial. You could tell what time of day it was based on the shadow that it cast. It was like the hands of a clock. Ashe?
Ashe.
By the way, the Greeks referred to that as an obelisk, but what did we call it? A
Tekken.
Tekken. Tekken. People mistake, they think these two words go together, modern technology. They don't know anything about ancient technology. The word technology comes from the Greek word tekkenos, and the Greek word tekkenos comes from the Kemetic word tekken. Ashe? So when you try to teach people about the history, and people say, I don't want nothing to do with that, you know, ancient Africans ain't never did nothing, they just running around in the jungles throwing spears at one another. They know nothing about the technology of our ancestors because it's been kept from them. Ashe?
Ashe.
So here we have the Washington Monument in front of a reflecting pool. By the way, if you're going to choose a symbol to memorialize George Washington, who owned African people as slaves, it seems to me that that would be an insult to us to choose one of our ancient symbols to memorialize him. Ashe?
Ashe.
But it's not an insult if you don't know what you're looking at. But here we have the Washington Monument in front of a reflecting pool. Imagine my amazement when I get to the temple of Amun-Ra, and what do I see? There's your Tekken, and there's your reflecting pool. Founding fathers of America studied your history very thoroughly, and they wanted to recreate a nation as great as ancient Kemet and many of the other Nile Valley civilizations, and they knew they could not do it without you. Ashe?
Ashe.
Here we have a picture of the temple, and there were always two Tekken on either side of the entrance of the temple. You see one is missing here. What do you think happened to this one?
They
Stole it.
You're absolutely right. It was stolen, and we can go to Central Park in New York City and see a stolen Tekken. We can go to Rome in Italy. You can go to Vatican City where the Pope is. They slap a cross on top of it. You can go to Place de la Concorde in Paris and see a stolen Tekken for those who have eyes to see. That's why I said at the beginning, sharpen your eye and tune your ear so you know what you see and what? Understand what you hear. Ashe?
Ashe.
So me and my son drove here all the way from Atlanta. Even if you don't get a chance to go to the motherland, you look out on the skyline of most major cities and you will see examples of African architecture. There's your Tekken and your step pyramid. Ashe?
Ashe.
Sharpen your eye and tune your ear. As Tony Browder says, it's hidden in plain sight. Hidden in plain sight for everybody to see. We just oftentimes don't even realize what we're looking at. So which